Okay, the next question. What is the slope-intercept form of this? So slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, okay? And we want to isolate y, right? So there's a few ways to do that, but my favorite way here is to grab this and to bring it to this side. So when you bring a term across the equal sign, it switches the sign in front of the term to make it positive in this case. Okay, so we end up with 6x minus 4 is equal to y. Then we simply have to divide by 2 on each and every item. Now here we have an option of dividing by 2 collectively here or individually. I like individually in this instance. Okay, the 2's cancel out and we're left with what 6 over 2 is just 3, and then 4 over 2 is just 2. And that matches with answer choice H. Which of the following is a solution to this equation? Okay, so what we have to do here is we have to do factoring. So we always go in this order. GCF first, then we have a look at dots, then we have a look at trinomial. Okay, so we factor out an x, and then we're left with x plus 5. And here we can t-chart this situation, and that leads us to setting each one equal to 0 separately. Okay, because basically if you have two things that multiply up to 0, that means one of them has to be 0, but we're not sure which. So this is kind of an OR situation. It's one of these, but we're not sure which. So in one instance we have x equals 0, and in the other instance, if we solve this out, we get x equals negative 5. So those are both of the x values that are going to cause this original thing to equal 0. Okay, and so the one that they're looking for is choice D. For the right triangle shown below, what is the tangent of B? So the first thing we learned about trigonometry is the SOHCAHTOA, right? SOHCAHTOA. And in particular, tangent, okay, tangent of an angle, in this case B, is opposite over adjacent. Okay? So the opposite is the one that this arc does not touch. So notice how it touches two sides. It does not touch this third side. So this is the opposite. The adjacent is the one that's not the hypotenuse, and then the hypotenuse is the longest side, always across from the 90-degree angle. Okay. So now we just have to figure out what the opposite side is and the adjacent. So the opposite is C, the adjacent is A. So that matches with answer choice J. A chord 8 inches long is 3 inches from the center of a circle. What is the radius of the circle to the nearest tenth of an inch? Okay, so the way that this works is when you have a chord, let's see, and here you have a radius, basically, yeah, these are pretty much going to form a right angle, okay, and this is also going to be equivalent to this. So this is going to equal 4, right? So 3, 4. Your other side is going to be 5, if you know 3, 4, 5 triangle. If you don't know that, you can use Pythagorean theorem to figure that out. So 9 and 16, so square root of 25, which is 5. Okay. So anyway, the radius should equal 5. The length L in meters of a spring is given by this equation, where F is the applied force. Approximately what force must be applied for the spring's length to be 0.23? So we want L to be 0.23. So we set that equal to 2/3 F plus 0.05. One thing to note here is, notice how they do 2/3 and the F is kind of in the middle, and so is the equal sign. It's pretty horrible, right? So I encourage you to write it this way, where the numerator, along with the equal sign and any other symbols, are all along the top, and then the denominator kind of sticks down in the bottom. That makes things easier when you kind of move factors around diagonally, okay? But anyway, for this particular problem, we'll probably use decimals anyway, just to make it easier. So the first step to solving for F is to take the thing that's furthest away and move it to the other side of the equation. So the 2/3 is going to stay put for now, but this plus 0.05 has to be moved to the other side. So we do that by doing the opposite operation on both sides. Okay? So then we do 23 minus 5 effectively. 0.23 minus 0.05. That gives us 0.18, right? That's going to equal 2/3 f. So let me just rewrite that here. 2/3 f. Then, as I mentioned before, I like to have this so I can move diagonally. A lot of people here will divide by 2/3, but then that gets confusing because now you have multiple different denominators and sort of wacky, okay? My preferred method is, again, in a way, it's kind of like cross multiplication. I'm going to bring the 3 up diagonally, all right, so that it's going to multiply the 0.18. Then I can remove it from there. And I'm going to move the 2 diagonally downwards, so it's going to land in the denominator of the other side. So now I just have to combine those numbers together. 0.18 divided by 2, I could start by doing 18 over 2, which is 9. And then I have to move the decimal 2 places to the left. So that would give me 0.09. So that evaluates to 0.09. And then I have to do this times 3. So I can start by doing 9 times 3, I get 27. And I have to move the decimal twice to the left to adjust. So the answer I'm getting here is 0.27, choice K. After a snowstorm, city workers removed an estimated 12,000 cubic meters of snow from the downtown area. So whenever you see the word cubic meters, that's meters cubed. So the only way to get meters cubed is to multiply meters times meters times meters. And if you're multiplying 3 things together, that's 3 dimensions. 3-dimensional means volume, okay? So 12,000 is really the volume of this situation. Anyway, if this snow were spread in an even layer over an empty lot with dimensions 62 by 85, so 62 by 85, about how many layers deep would the snow be? All right, so what would be this third dimension coming out of the page? That's the idea. All right. Well, this is a rectangular prism. So the volume formula for a rectangular prism is length times width times height. Now we already know the length and the width, and we already know the volume. So all we need to do is solve for the height. So we plug in 12,000 for volume. L is 62, width is 85, and we have h. So go to the calculator, 62 times 85 equals this, 5270, h. Okay, and then of course we have to divide by the 5270. Divide by 5270. So I do, let's see, 12,000 divided by, answer equals 2.27. That's my height, so that's between 2 and 3, choice C. The hypotenuse of the right triangle shown below is 22 feet long. The cosine of angle L is 3/4. Okay, so just as we saw before, SOHCAHTOA, right? Cosine is this guy, so the cosine of L is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse, and that's going to be equivalent to 3/4. Now, this 3/4 might have been reduced, so it might actually be 30 over 40 or any other multiple of 3/4, and it got reduced down to 3/4. So what you might like to do is call it 3x over 4x, where x is some factor that sort of got canceled out. So then we can label the sides from L's perspective, right, because we're doing cosine of L. So adjacent would be 3x, so this is the 3x side, and then hypotenuse would be 4x, so this is the 4x side. Right, now we can set up a proportion to figure out what the length of this side might be, right? So 3x is to question mark as 4x is to 22, okay? And so we can cross multiply this and solve for question mark, right? So 22 times 3x equals question mark times 4x. So we divide by 4x, divide by 4x. All right, that'll cancel. And then, of course, let's see, these x's will cancel out, right? And then 4 is really 2 times 2. 2 times 2. 22 over 2 is 11. So I can cancel that out, making it 11. And then basically here I have 11 times 1.5. So half of 11 is what, 5.5? So add that back to 11 and we get 16.5. Of course you can use your calculator there, make it a little bit easier at the end, but okay. The table below shows the number of pounds of apples grown last year in 4 cities. Okay, each whole apple represents 1,000 pounds of apples. According to the graph, what fraction of apples grown in all 4 cities grew in Appleton? Alright, so here's Appleton, and it looks like they have 2.5 apples, and as I said, each represents 1,000, but we don't really need to use that fact, because when we do a fraction, right, we're going to have 2.5, right, success over total kind of thing. So 2.5 over the total number of apples. So if there's 1,000 here and then there's 1,000 here, they're just going to cancel anyway. So how many total apples are there? Well, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7.5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Total of 12 apples. So now this is not appearing as an answer choice. So in order to make it look nicer, we'd like to get rid of a decimal here, right? So a few ways to do that. I'll start with the calculator method. So we could put this into the calculator, divide it up. That'll give us a proper decimal, and then we could do math, fraction, enter. 5 out of 24, okay? Now if you don't like that, you'd rather do it by hand, then to get rid of a 0.5, you have to multiply by 2, right? So you do that on top and bottom, and that'll give you 5 over 24.